texts. And we'll take a question from Zach Ziola, please.
Should Britain have a referendum on the EU before the general election?
Should Britain have a referendum on the EU before the general election? This was a proposal that Adam Afriyie is putting before the House of Commons, to some dismay of many of his colleagues. But Diane Abbott, are you in favour of a referendum before the general election?
I'm certainly in favour of a referendum. I believe the Labour Party should...
That wasn't the question.
No, but let me just explain. The reason why... Because it's not yet our policy to support a referendum at all. The reason why a referendum is important, it's not because I'm anti-European. I'm pro-European. I was in Barcelona this summer, had a wonderful time. But the problem...
That is not being pro-European.
Exactly.
That's having a nice holiday.
Tourism is not the same thing.
But in the 90s, I was on the Treasury Select Committee, travelled all over Europe, Berlin, Paris, whatever, talking about a single currency. And what struck me then, and it remains my position, that Europe is an elite project, and the European elites don't want ordinary people to have the debate. And I think there's a democratic case for having the debate and having a referendum. I'm not sure about a referendum before the general election, but I think it's an interesting idea, and I think Adam is to be congratulated for bringing it forward.
Right. Would you like to see Ed Miliband, now that you're not on his front bench and can speak your mind at last, not that you ever stop, which is probably why you're no longer on the front bench. Would you like to see Labour put that in the manifesto for the next election?
A referendum?
Yes.
Yes, because I think there's a democratic case. It's not anti-European to allow the British people to debate and decide.
Yeah. OK. Jo Swinson.
Well, I think that we should have a referendum, but not before the general election. We should have a referendum when there is a significant change of powers between the UK and the rest of Europe, and that seems to be the sensible time at which to have that referendum. I think Adam's proposal for a referendum in 2014 is flawed on a range of grounds. I think it, first of all, takes no regard of the fact that we have a Scottish referendum coming up the month before that, and it's almost like the impact on that is not featured in his calculations. Maybe he's not that bothered about whether the United Kingdom actually continues in its current form. It seems to have no regard to the fact that this would be throwing a hand grenade into a European economy that is currently trying to recover from an incredibly difficult set of circumstances, which has a huge impact on British trade and British jobs. I mean, it seems that this proposal has really achieved two things. It's got Adam onto the front page of the Mail on Sunday, so it's succeeded in that objective. And the only other thing, and I have to congratulate him for this, perhaps the only time that the Conservative Party have ever managed to be united on Europe, united in disagreement with this particular proposal, and I think that is something which perhaps does deserve some real congratulations.
All right. Adam Afriyie.
Well, look, I believe that the British people need to have a say, and 80% of the British people want a referendum, 80% of businesses want a referendum, more than half want it sooner rather than later, within the next year or two. So it's not particularly revolutionary for a backbench MP to suggest that the people have a referendum in 2014. You know, I think that people need their say, and from what the answers I'm already hearing here, you've got a political elite, a political class that for 40 years have kept saying, oh, it's not the right time, we've got to have lots of complicated things happening beforehand. 12 months, I can tell you, from negotiating in business, is plenty of time to negotiate, and if we set the date in October 2014, guess where the pressure is? The pressure is on the European Union leaders to come to Britain and say, my goodness, we've got to convince these people to stay in. They will have to come forward with proposals. I think it's the right thing to do. I believe it's the right thing to do, and I'd rather be on the side of the British people than the political elite that just wants to deny them a voice.
You got a letter today, didn't you? From 140 Tory MPs.
So I hear.
You've not actually read it. I'll read it to you if you like.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, no, but you know what it says. Just says you're wrong. 140 of the 147 people who came in 2010. Yeah. Are you going to go on pressing for this referendum, and do you have any hope of getting it through? Or are you going to say, look, I had my moment to explain what I thought, but I'm now going to drop it?
Look, I come from a tough background. I was dragged up lovingly in Peckham, in South East London, council housing. I've had some big, tough challenges in my life. People say to me, oh, you can't achieve this. Well, I always push through, and I work as hard as I can. So if the political class is uniting, the establishment uniting, and say, no, a backbench MP cannot even have a say on this, then I think I'm prepared to fight. I'm prepared to fight all the way so the British people can have a say.
So you're not withdrawing it?
Well, clearly one has to listen to the parliamentary debate. Clearly, oh no, wait a second. Clearly one has to listen to what the politicians have to say. Clearly one has to listen and take soundings. But I am absolutely sure that the way to secure, for the Conservative Party actually, if I'm honest about it, an election victory in 2015 is if we've had this referendum, we've settled the question, we are settled as a nation, the incoming government must either remain in the EU or must come out, but the British people have decided.
And why, as a matter of interest, did you abstain in 2011 when 81 Tory MPs did call for a referendum?
No,
you weren't there then.
Well, I was there. I was standing there. I was in the debate. And I'll tell you why. Because I made a decision. I'm not a coalister. I'm not a coalitionist. Okay, I didn't believe in the coalition when it started. And I made a decision, though. The Conservatives are leading the coalition. I am a Conservative MP, been a Conservative for 25 years. I decided that I wasn't going to stand in the way of what a Conservative-led government wanted to do. So basically, I decided that I wasn't going to. There was a three-line whip. I defied it. I didn't vote for the government in that whip. So that's the way Parliament works. Either you vote against something or for something, or if you think that I actually think the European referendum motion was flawed, then you abstain. But I defied the whip, and I will continue to do so on this one if necessary.
Matthew Parris.
I've got to tell you, Adam, as a fellow Conservative, that nobody in the party is saying that you have no right to an opinion, and no one's saying you have no right to put forward a proposal. They're saying that your proposal is stark raving bonkers.
Well, to give the people a say, to have a referendum and give the people a say is bonkers. I don't think so.
We have a Prime Minister who says that if he is re-elected with a majority at the next election, he will renegotiate the terms of our membership of the European Union. He will bring back those renegotiated terms. He will put them to the country. If the country like them, we can vote yes. If we don't like them, we can vote no. We shall have something then to vote on. Now, in the middle of a European economic crisis with a coalition government, there wouldn't be a proposition to vote on. It's just the wrong time.
Okay, you think it's bonkers?
Yeah.
All right. You, sir, on that gangway there, do you think it's bonkers? Yes.
I don't think it's bonkers. I think the issue will be that if we have a referendum and we vote to come out, we'll just have further referenda until the political elite get the answer that they want.
Which is what?
Which is to stay in.
Which is to say yes. Okay. And you, sir, on the gangway here.
Do you not think that in the European elections next summer that we might have a referendum at that point?
I did think about that idea, but I think one has to be practical, and I think you need at least 12 months when something is passing through Parliament to actually say that there will be a referendum. And when it comes to the Scottish referendum, I've taken that fully into account. One can have a referendum on Scotland. Do Scotland want to be part of the United Kingdom? We have an answer to that, and then several weeks later, we have a referendum on membership of the European Union. One moment, just one moment. This is really important. Is that, look, we've got a coalition government, okay, and we're settling our constitutional issues. We've had a vote, we had a referendum on AV, alternative voting. We've settled that the Lords are not going to be elected. We're having a referendum on the United Kingdom in terms of Scotland. Why on earth are we not sorting out the elephant in the room, which is our relationship with the European Union? I think it would be good for Britain.
Sarah Churchwell.
Well, Adam and I were reminiscing in the green room. The very first time, and in fact, it's only the second time that we've met, but the first time that we met was on another panel program debating the European referendum, and it was, I think, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that debate doesn't seem to have moved on very much in that decade. And it seems to me, from the point of view of somebody who's, still comparatively recently arrived in this country, I've lived here for 14 years, that you just never are going to get away from this. You're going to have the damn referendum. Yeah. And the can keeps getting kicked down the road. However, I do take the point that a coalition government in the middle of an economic crisis is probably not the best time to do it. That said, it does seem like there's always an excuse. It's never a good time to have it. The thing that troubles me is that it seems to have become a shorthand for a foregone conclusion, which is that the vote will be to leave Europe. And I sincerely hope that that isn't the case. I think it's incredibly important that Britain remains part of the European Union, but you've got to sort this out. You can't keep going back and forth about what it is. You've just got to take the vote, and hopefully Britain will come to its senses and vote to stay in the European Union, and then you can, case closed, move on.
Adam was saying, well, the Europeans have got to come over here and explain why we should stay in. But what happens if they say, look, you're just so much trouble, vote against and go and leave us, and we'll be fine without you. Thank you very much.
Yes, the parallels with the Scottish referendum, some people would say. The woman at the very back there, yes.
I totally agree with Sarah Churchill, her phrase, I hope that England will come to its senses, the UK will come to its senses. However, I think there's a real grave danger, come to their senses will not happen as long as there isn't a really decent information campaign before any referendum.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you want to see a referendum before the election? Do you want to see
I certainly don't want to see a referendum for a very long time. I think it's complete nonsense to bring it up at this time of a critical time within Europe. But I think, can I just say, people do not realise in this country, they never have an information campaign that shows them the advantages that they've had over an enormous number of years of being in the European Union.
The woman here, am I right? And then I come up to you.
I'm a teacher in a secondary school in England, and I'm particularly interested in what the government proposes to do to educate 18-year-olds who can vote on Europe, especially given that the new history national curriculum is increasingly Anglo-centric.
Okay. And the person over there on the right, on the left, I mean, rather. No, not you, sir, the man next to you, even though you've got a very persuasive wave. The person on your right. Yes.
I think it's actually quite presumptuous to say that it would be on the EU leaders to come and say to England why we should stay. I actually think it's the job of your party to tell me why on earth we should leave, because I think if you really look at facts, there's quite a lot of attractive things being part of the EU. If you look at postgraduate study in this country, it's about £10,000 to £15,000. Whereas in Scandinavia, it's completely free. In Holland, it's £1,500. Why on earth would we want to leave unless it's the typically uncharitable Tory line of we don't want to bail out Greece?
How would you vote, Adam, if your referendum came about next year? How would you vote? Just in or out?
Well, like Michael Gove, if we had the referendum today, like Michael Gove, I would vote to come out. But 12 months from now, when we've had some renegotiations and there's a different offer on the table, then it may be a different situation. But I just want to correct something. The Conservative Party is completely united behind the idea of having a referendum. I have a difference on timing. And the second thing is the Conservative Party doesn't have a view about whether we should come out or stay in. And this is something that the British public must decide. And as soon as the campaign starts, there will be people arguing to stay in. All the information that we require from the various campaigns will be available, and there will be people who are arguing to come out. The point is to have it out and to have our country then united either within Europe or united because we're coming out of the European Union.
I'm going to move on to another question.